I am so busy. I know I haven't posted in 4 weeks. I'm sorry, I tried. Right, anyway, so, happy holidays. Okay, I'm gonna stop before I get copyrighted. Wait, I don't even get paid for this. Anyways, why don't we actually get started? I know why I just filmed the clip in slow-mo. Anyways, so, I'm sorry, yeah, about the fan computer. So, right, I did not feel like putting makeup on this morning. So we're just gonna get into it, like, actually this time. Okay. So, butterflies. The story starts with an author who usually writes about children's books because he has a child. But money was getting tight and people weren't buying, so he tried to make more horror type books because people loved that. So, but the books were just like murder mystery. So then he started making more actually horror type books, and he would basically, the victims would die of freezing and butterflies. But one morning, his wife and him woke up and watched the news as they do every day. They were just expecting some celebrity garbage, but saw that a butcher was put in his own freezer and murdered. Now, this was weird because obviously he had written that about his, written as his first book was about a guy, but like about like a butcher, or like about a guy. Right, words don't work. About a guy who was murdered by being freezed, and like the butterflies pushed him in. But he just shrugged it off because what are the chances of that happening? But it didn't stop there. A week later, a woman was found dead on the streets after going missing a few days prior because cause of death, freezing, and something else. It started getting crazy when they found a body in the museum of the moth exhibit, yeah. And lady was pinned by wards and froze. So after more deaths occurred in horrible ways and ended in freezing, that's when people began to realize that these were way too similar to the novels that the author was writing. So obviously he was investigated, and all he could say was he didn't know. And the police then asked if there was any way to predict the serial killer. And he said, I remember potential victims would find a piece of a butterfly net among their possessions. This is the serial killer's way of symbolizing their capture. The police thanked him and left. He had trouble sleeping that night and dreamed that he was in the point of view of the killer. The image was drugging a victim and shoving him into a freezer, and it felt real. He said, I could feel the coldness, which woke me up. My wife was sound asleep. I looked around the room and noticed the window was open. No wonder it felt cold. Wait, didn't I lock the window? The window was open. I went around and inspected the house. Nothing seemed to have been taken, no signs of intrusion. So his wife woke up. And he was like, I think I left the window open. That's all. And they went back. But he had a bad feeling. And as he looked over some of the belongings on the table, he saw a torn piece of butterfly net. He called the police. The next day, a few cops arrived at their home, guarding their home, and he told the cops to watch over the areas with freezer rooms just in case. Citizens were also warned not to go out alone at night. I later contributed more info to the police regarding my fictional character's actions in relation to the serial killer, to what the serial killer might do. Also, I told them, he might resort to suffocating his victims if he can't find a way to freeze them to death. My wife later dragged me to the room. She whispered, "That wasn't in your book." "What? Your character never did that." "You're right. Didn't he wind up caught in an ambush as he tried to drug still living victims? But he wouldn't want to repeat his mistakes." Her eyes widened. "I just know how he'd think." "Do you think your reader would know?" I'm not sure." A butterfly flew into our house, catching our attention. I caught it by the wings and stared at it. "Are you sure that you're right?" I ignored her. "Put it down," I heard her say, but I continued, fascinated by the creature. "Snap out of it!" She slapped me, and I dropped the butterfly, breaking its wing. I suddenly was overwhelmed with anger. I grabbed her by the neck. A few objects fell during the struggle of creating a ruckus. The police busted into our rooms and fired a gun at me. "What's going on?" I heard her cry as I fainted. All the evidence pointed to me. Fingerprints, DNA, samples, everything. The police even found frozen butterflies in my fridge. "Tell us everything," the interrogator ordered. I confessed that the novel I wrote was based off a series of nightmares I had for quite a while now, even before I got married. Initially, it started as just plain old massacres, but each time it repeated, new elements were added, giving more complex, which later inspired me to write the novel. I was hesitant to publish it. The idea was always in my mind, but it was only until desperation came that I decided to release it. When asked about the series of the murders I supposedly committed, I replied, "I only remember them as dreams." The interrogator pointed out the fictional character I wrote dreams of having a normal family, a loving wife, and a child as he wanted. Interrogation ended, and eventually I had to wait for my sentence. The ordeal was growing too much for me. The most painful thought was leaving my wife behind. She was expected to give birth this month, and I may miss it. Reality begins to blur as I try to block out the pain. As they take me away, I cannot help but reflect on my identity. Am I the writer who dreamt about being a serial killer? Or am I the serial killer who dreamt of being a writer? So that is the story. I will link it down below. Well, thanks for watching. I know it's been far too long. I'm sorry. I'll try better. I'll be better. I hope. Bye-bye.